So, good morning, one and all. Today, we are going to discuss the concept of dedifferentiation, and redifferentiation. This is about the ability of the cells to divide or not to divide or to redivide. As we are aware that meristematic cells have the ability to divide, they keep on dividing, new cells are formed, and then these new cells would either divide or they would differentiate into some other type of cells. For example, parenchyma, sclerenchyma, collenchyma, etc. And this particular ability is referred to as differentiation. So in simple words, it is the maturation of cells which are derived from the apical meristem of root as well as shoot. And it involves the permanent changes in the structure as well as function of the cells. So the cell becomes mature. Say, suppose it is parenchyma, so it will have a particular size, shape, and obviously the function, like say storage. Now this process is referred to as differentiation. Now during this process of cell differentiation, the cell undergoes few major anatomical as well as physiological changes. For example, if I consider a hydrophyte like Pistia or Ecordia, in order to float on its surface, its parenchyma undergoes some changes. Instead of remaining a normal parenchyma, it becomes aerenchyma by having a large schizogenous interspaces, especially for the purpose of buoyancy and the mechanical support as well as for the process of aeration. Now this is referred to as a differentiation. So as you can make out, there are major anatomical as well as physiological changes are taking place. The maturation is at the cost of capacity to divide as well as redivide. So more number of cells, tissues would be formed and tissues will develop into organs. And therefore, the capacity to divide and redivide is very important so that the differentiation can take place. Then comes de-differentiation. Now, what is meant by de-differentiation? Suppose the cells are already differentiated and form the permanent structures. Okay, that means they have lost the ability to divide. But suppose for some or the other need, those particular cells will start dividing again. Then it is referred to as de-differentiation. The living differentiated cells which have lost the capacity to divide may regain the same as per the need and divide. As per the need and divide. Thus, permanent mature cells undergoes de-differentiation and becomes meristematic. Meristematic cells differentiate, become permanent cells. Permanent cells, if required, once again become meristematic. If required, this is very important word, if required. So wherever there is a requirement, the permanent cells have the ability to regain their ability to differentiate or to divide, and that is referred to as de-differentiation. And one of the classic example here is interfascicular cambium and cork cambium. And now you will get the connection of this part with your anomalous secondary growth. The secondary growth in plants is possible because of the activity of this cambium, interfascicular cambium or cork cambium, which is formed from the parenchyma cells, which are mature cells present between the vascular bundles and the innermost layer of the cortex respectively. They starts a de-differentiation, and that is how the cambial ring is formed, and this cambium ring is further responsible for secondary growth. Then comes redifferentiation. So what is redifferentiation? You can guess. The cells which are produced by dedifferentiation once again will lose the capacity to divide and mature to perform specific functions. So for example, the cambium is going to produce secondary phloem and secondary xylem. Okay. Now this secondary xylem and secondary phloem, which is formed after dedifferentiation, after dedifferentiated cambium present in the vascular bundle, now these particular cells, secondary xylem and secondary phloem, they will undergo redifferentiation. Okay. So that is how we have the concept of differentiation, dedifferentiation, and redifferentiation. Okay. Now let us consider the concept of normal secondary growth in the dicot state. We are aware that in case of plants, the growth can be divided into two. First is the primary growth and the other one is the secondary growth. Apical meristem as well as intercalary meristem both are responsible for primary growth, which is in terms of height of the plant. Whereas the lateral meristem, which is present perpendicular to the apical and intercalary meristem, is responsible for producing cells on the sides, and as a result secondary growth takes place. This secondary growth is responsible for increase in the girth or diameter of the plant body. Now usually we get a normal secondary growth in the dicot stems. That means there is another type of secondary growth as well, which is called as anomalous secondary growth. I'll come back to that afterward. Now let us see the first diagram. In this first diagram, we have a typical dicot stem transfer section, which is differentiated into epidermis, cortex, and then the vascular region. In the center, there is a pith. Each of the vascular bundle is conjoined, collateral, and open, and they all are arranged in the ring. So this is a typical dicot stem, such as sunflower. You can clearly make out there is a presence of a cambium in between primary phloem and primary xylem. This cambium is called as vascular cambium, and that makes the vascular bundle open. What is the meaning of open? Usually when we ask this question, we get the answer open means cambium is present. But the actual meaning of open means the stem is open, or that particular organ is open for secondary growth. And that is due to the presence of this particular cambium. Now this cambium is referred to as intrafascicular cambium. But then this intrafascicular cambium is not sufficient for production of secondary phloem and secondary xylem. So what happened? The parenchymatous region, which is present in between the two vascular bundle, these parenchyma cells starts dedifferentiation. Now you'll get the word dedifferentiation. And now due to dedifferentiation of these parenchyma cells, formation of interfascicular cambium will take place. Now this interfascicular cambium combines with intrafascicular cambium, and you get the formation of a continuous ring, which is called as cambium ring. And now this cambium ring is going to produce more of secondary xylem towards the pith region and more of secondary phloem towards the cortex region. And as a result of which, secondary growth, normal secondary growth will take place. The normal function of the cambium is to produce secondary xylem intracambially and secondary phloem extracambially. The vascular cambium consists of two types of cells. Number one, the spindle-shaped fusiform initial, and second, the smaller isodiametric cells called as ray initials. The fusiform initials produce vertically elongated secondary tissues like xylem vessels, fibers, tracheids, parenchyma, sieve tubes, and companion cells. Whereas the ray initials give rise to xylem and phloem rays, which are arranged horizontally. That is, they will run from the center to the center of the stem towards the periphery. Now, this is referred to as normal secondary growth. Now, any deviation from this normal origin of cambium or normal function of cambium will give rise to anomalous secondary growth. I repeat, any deviation from the normal origin of cambium. What is the normal origin of cambium? The normal origin of cambium is in between the vascular tissues, that is called intrafascicular, and second, between the two intrafascicular cambium, formation of interfascicular cambium. Now this is referred to as normal origin. And now what is the normal function of cambium? Normal function of cambium is to produce secondary xylem intracambially, that is towards the pith, and secondary phloem extracambially, that is towards the cortex. So this is normal origin and normal function of cambium. But then any deviation means any change in the origin as well as function will be referred to as anomalous. Anomalous means abnormal secondary growth. Now there is a possibility that this abnormal activity or anomalous activity may be for some good reason in the plant, then it is referred to as adaptive. And if it is of no use, then it is simply referred to as non-adaptive. This classification is given by Haberland, one of the great anatomists. So secondary growth is normal or abnormal depending upon the origin or behavior of cambium, and it can be either adaptive or non-adaptive on the basis of whether it is for some use in the plant or it is of no use in the plant. If it is of use, then it is called adaptive. If it is of no use, then it is called as non-adaptive. Okay. Apart from this, you can also see some few more names in this particular diagram, that is of phloem and phloem. Now, what are they? Now, remember, when the secondary growth is taking place in the stellar region, simultaneously there are some changes which are taking place in the extrastellar region as well. And as a result of as a result of this extrastellar will cover epidermis, cortex region. There are changes taking place in these 2 as well. And as a result of which you get the entire epidermis and cortex being replaced by periderm. And in the periderm, you get the layers like that of phloem, phloem, and phloderm. Together, they will form the periderm, and the periderm may show presence of lenticels for the exchange of gases. That is how the wood formation will take place. That is how the wood formation. When the dicot stem is young, at that time it will show the characters which are shown like in the first diagram. But then as it is becoming mature, it will undergo secondary growth, and in the last, in the fourth diagram, that is a completely mature stem, you can see where the secondary growth has taken place in both stellar as well as extrastellar region. So that is all about the introduction to secondary growth.